Today I'll be walking you through the first explorative artworks created in Google Street View. These were created by myself, I'm an artist called Sylvia Grace Borda, and in partnership with Google Business Street View photographer John M Lynch. The works were created in October 2013 and effectively walk viewers through a scene, something that's been staged specifically for the Google Street View cameras to capture. And what's really quite significant about this is it's never been done before. Rather than just talking about the work, I'm actually going to take you, as you can see here, we're on the Google Maps. We're going to go in and look at one of the farms. So if I start typing in the word Medomist, what you'll notice is that it pops up and starts to stream me right to their location in Surrey, British Columbia. Medomist is an active farm that does both maize or corn feed for animals, as well as raises a series of turkeys that are effectively part of food production in British Columbia. When we come to the page, you'll see the location of the farm on Google's sort of graphics street representation here, and you'll also have this screen here that gives you an overview that you can see 6 still photos of the farm. You can go into Google Street View's traditional sort of format where you're literally transversing this road system, or you can go inside. And it's this inside that is actually where we get to see the artwork, or what's being staged for Google Street View photography. So when we go into Google, you notice right away that you're off the road. You're literally in this feature, and this feature is being done as part of Google Business's strategy, where you can actually explore a store site or a site of production, but it hasn't necessarily been arranged for you to see something staged for the camera to be captured. Here's Kevin Boyes, one of the farmers who manages 6,000 turkeys, so we're in a turkey barn, and what becomes quite remarkable is that we have this ability to see the entire flock of turkeys, but equally we can start to move around the farmer. So what I've done as an artist is I've given the opportunity for the viewer within Google Street View to have this ability to actually explore what I'm calling a dimensional photograph. However, what we also notice is that when we come across Kevin here, he's sort of zoomable. He's continuing on the same agricultural activity that we see from different distances or different points within Google. And this is that kind of zoomable feature that you have in Google, that you can go back and forward, you can go in and around. And this is very much the way that we're used to exploring Google Street View technology. But what makes this really quite exceptional is that while we have this ability to kind of go back and forward through the scene, what we don't anticipate necessarily is we have the farmer Kevin here consistently changing or working with the water feeder. What makes this project really quite significant is what we appear to see is a routine activity happen, which is a farmer changing a water feeder, but it's been sort of reverse engineered. And what I mean by this is I've asked each participant to stand for nearly 40 minutes motionless, so can be caught by the Google camera, the Google Business camera work handled by John Lynch, in a way that's most unexpected. So we have this kind of appearance that seems almost seamless in time. Equally, we have this ability to explore, just like Google, the entire environment that's held and captured within this farm. So suddenly we have a tableau vivant, which is something that comes from the turn of the century, but in a way most unexpected. As an artist, I was really interested in deconstructing the notions of photography. Things tend to be now so quickly rendered with digital media. There's this ubiquity of sharing images. There's this incredible speed in looking at things online. And as an artist, I wanted to see if I could recreate this ability that we would have something that would come from historical image making, but equally that you could, as a viewer, also see things that were beyond the picture frame, things that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate. So while I consider this my main aspect, my main tableau, this is something I would print out as a photograph, you can also see what's directly behind the photographer, what's to the side of the photographer, and even what's at ground level. And this makes this kind of notion of a dimensional photograph. Working in this medium is so very new that you also have to find a way to, how should I say, sign the work. So I've been able to have a signature plate put here, curated by Sylvia Grace Borda. In fact, I've kind of staged everything for the business photographer John Lynch to photograph. I don't have a license, but I've been able to negotiate time with Google Business Street View Photography to undertake this. But it's done in a way where I'm actually staging or sampling my own works. And this becomes quite fascinating because there's a well-known work of Jeff Wall, and it's rags on a sink. And so here's sort of something that I'm alluding to here. Equally, you can also move around and come and see where we've been from. We also have these chevron arrows, which give us an indication that we can continue to move out and around the scene. The calendar dates the work very nicely, so there's this kind of illusion as to when the work has been authored. But equally, we have this ability to see the barn, to see the yard, to understand, again, where we've come from. And it's actually quite a significant barn and structure. And as of note, there's 6,000 turkeys being raised by Medomist. But if we move forward, we actually come across something that's very different too. And that is another tableau. And as an artist, you're left with this question of, when you're working in new media, how do you sign the work? And for this endeavor, like Kevin Boyes, I've also stood still for 40 minutes in order to be recorded by Google cameras. And this becomes my signature. I become embedded in the work. My main tableau was within the barn, but to denote the work I've done, I've also been placed here. And so you can come across, and if it exists in reality, it can exist in Google Street View. So I've taken the effort to also produce a bag, and there's a signature of Sylvia Grace Borda, my camera gear. And equally, and by chance, there happened to be some graffiti on some abandoned farm materials, which are SGB, which happened to be my initials. And this, I thought, was a brilliant place to be positioned. So yet again, you come across this. Because I'm working within Google Street View technologies, you have to be respectful of those parameters. And everybody who is featured or is a participant has their face blurred. And so I'm equally blurred out, but here's a self-portrait or self-assisted portrait done by John of me within the scene. Of note, you can continue to go another 2 kilometers down, so you can go through this cut corn, onto the railway tracks. If you head left, you can go back onto the street, head another 2 streets down, and then you can go physically into a corn maze or labyrinth, which the Boyes family manages, go through it, and find another portrait within the scene as well that's being staged specifically for the camera. So I'll leave you with this. This is a farm tableau. If you'd like to learn more, please go to my website, which is sylviagborda.com, written right here for you. And if you're willing to also see more and learn about the Farm Tableau series, there's been 2 fantastic articles written, one by a Canadian magazine called The Tyee. When the material was put together, it was published and publicized as Google Farm View. The URL is here, as is the title of the article. Equally, the material was reviewed in Europe, acknowledging it as the very first materials to be produced as an artist work within Google.
Okay, stop. You didn't mention field studies.
We can do another take for it.
Okay, but you've got to mention that.
Oh.